Section 83 of Through Fairy Halls of My Book House. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Through Fairy Halls of My Book House, edited by Olive Beaupre Miller. Tudur ap Einion, a Welsh fairy tale. Far up among the mountains there lies a little hollow called the Elves' Dell. Once upon a time there was a young man named Tudur ap Einion, who used to pasture his master's sheep there. One summer night Tudur was about to return to the lowlands with his flock, when he began to loiter along and grumble to himself that it was stupid business tending sheep, and he wished a gay lad like himself might have a little fun now and then. Suddenly he saw, perched on a stone near him, a little man in moss breeches with a fiddle under his arm. He was the tiniest wee creature imaginable. His coat was made of birch leaves, he wore a gorse flower for a cap, and his feet were shod with beetles' wings. As Tudur stared, open-mouthed, at the little man, the latter took up his fiddle, which was nothing more than a stringed wooden spoon, and ran his fingers across it. "Nos dach," said the little man, which means in English, "Good evening to you, good evening to you." "Ac I chwythin," replied Tudur, which is, being interpreted, "The same to you." "You are fond of dancing, Tudur?" went on the little man. "Why do anything so stupid as to tend sheep? Tarry here a while and you shall see some of the best dancers in Wales. He swelled out his chest as he spoke. "I am their musician." "But if you are a musician, where is your harp?" asked Tudur, loitering still more slowly. "Welshmen cannot dance without a harp." "Harp!" cried the wee creature scornfully. "I can play better music for dancing upon my fiddle." "Is that a fiddle?" asked Tudur in great curiosity. "That stringed wooden spoon you have in your hand?" For answer the little man nodded his head. And now through the dusky twilight Tudur saw hundreds of pretty little sprites come tripping from all parts of the mountain toward the spot where he stood. Some were dressed in white, some in blue, and some in pink, and some carried glow-worms in their hands as torches. So lightly did they step that not a blade of grass nor any flower was crushed beneath their weight, and all made a curtsy or a bow to Tudur as they passed. Tudur responded at once to their advances by doffing his cap and bowing to each in return. Presently the little minstrel drew his bow across the strings of his instrument, and the music he produced seemed to Tudur so enchanting that he turned farther and farther away from his sheep and listened open-mouthed. At sound of the sweet melody, the fairies, if fairies they were, ranged themselves in groups and began to dance. Round and round they went as the bow of the little minstrel flew. All the dancing Tudur had ever seen could not compare with this. His feet began to keep time to the music. He longed to step into the magic circle. Yet there was something in his breast that warned him away from it, and he heard his sheep calling him to his duties down the mountain. "Come, Tudur, join in the dance and make merry," the little man cried. Tudur's feet beat a faster tattoo, yet he still gave ear to the call of his sheep. "Nay, nay," he said, "dance on, my little beauties. I take my sheep down the mountain." Nevertheless he did not go. He did not even turn away. He lingered and yielded himself more and more to the entertainment before him. The music became faster and the dance wilder. "Come, Tudur, join in the dance and make merry," the little man cried again. Tudur began to sway with his whole body in time to the rhythm. The bleating of his sheep sounded more and more faintly in the distance. "Come, Tudur, join in the dance and make merry," the little man cried a third time, with a sweep of his bow across the strings that seemed to the shepherd sweeter than anything he had ever heard in all his life before. Then Tudur flung all thought of his sheep to the winds. With a bound he threw himself into the midst of the circle. Hurling his cap in the air, he cried, "Now for it! Play away, fiddler, play away!" And he gave himself wholly up to the dance. But what a change! No sooner was he within the ring that had seemed so pleasant when he stood looking on from without, than in a twinkling all was altered. The gorse blossom cap vanished from the minstrel's head. A pair of goat's horns branched out instead, and his face became as black as soot. The creatures that a moment before he had thought so beautiful now became ugly goats or dogs, while some took the shape of foxes and cats. And in the midst of these Tudur went dancing on. At length the motion grew so furious that Tudur could not make out the forms of the dancers at all. They whirled round and round him so rapidly that they looked like a wheel of fire. And still he flung himself about and waved his arms in time to their music. How gladly he would have torn himself away, but it seemed to him that he could not. In the midst of the ugly company he had chosen, he was forced to dance on and on and on. Next morning, Tudur's master went up the mountain to see what had become of his sheep and his shepherd. He found the flock safe and sound halfway down to the valley, but was astonished to see Tudur spinning around like mad in the midst of the hollow all by himself. "What in the world is the silly lad doing?" he cried. "Oh, master, master, stop me!" shouted Tudur. "Stop yourself!" replied the master. "In the name of heaven, stop yourself!" At these words Tudur suddenly stopped and blinked his eyes. There was no ugly circle about him. There was only the morning sunlight, the rocky crags above, and the sheep awaiting his tendance on the green, flower-sprinkled mountain pastures. "Tudur ap Einion, let me not find you deserting your sheep again," cried his master. Tudur hung his head and went foolishly back to his charges. End of section 83. Recording by J.J. Wasman.